You know, when we think about a cancer diagnosis, our minds usually jump straight to the physical battle, right? The chemo, the radiation, the fight to get better. But there's this whole other war being waged, one that's often completely invisible. It's the fight against this crushing anxiety, depression, and just sleepless nights. For the longest time, we've chalked this up to a psychological reaction. But what if it's way more than that? What if there's a direct biological conversation happening that we've been missing this whole time? Let's get into it.
I mean, really think about this for a second. What if the cancer cells themselves were sending out signals? Signals that are literally designed to sabotage a person's mental well-being. That's the huge, game-changing question we're looking at today. We're about to unpack some incredible research that shows the link between cancer and the brain is way more direct and, frankly, way more dangerous than we ever thought possible. So to really appreciate how big of a deal this is, we first have to understand the old way of thinking. For decades, the medical world had a very tidy and what seemed like a very logical explanation for all the psychological distress that cancer patients were experiencing. They called it reactive depression. And the logic, it made sense on the surface. Getting a diagnosis like that is unbelievably stressful, right? So of course you might feel anxious or depressed or unable to sleep. The distress was seen as a reaction to the disease, not a direct symptom of it. It was a story all about stress. And this really lays out that massive shift in thinking. Over on the left, you've got the old belief. It's all happening in the mind, this big psychological storm caused by stress. But then, look to the right. A new clue started to surface, evidence of a direct physical connection between the tumor and the brain. And that one clue, well, it changed everything. It suggested the story wasn't just about stress anymore. It was about a biological attack. Okay, so how in the world does a biological attack like this even work? This is where the science gets just absolutely fascinating. Researchers found that some tumors weren't just passively growing. They were actively and maliciously communicating with the brain's central command center. And that command center is something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. A better name for it? The body's master clock. This tiny, tiny part of your brain is the conductor of your entire daily orchestra. It's what tells you when to feel tired and when to feel awake. It controls crucial hormones like melatonin and cortisol, and it has a massive impact on your mood. It is, without a doubt, the cornerstone of our daily stability. So what's throwing a wrench into this beautifully tuned master clock? Well, here's our villain. There are these nasty little chemical messengers called inflammatory cytokines. You can think of them as tiny agents of chaos, and they're being released directly by certain cancer cells. And this is how the sabotage mission plays out, step by step. First, the cancer cells start pumping out these cytokines. Then, these little saboteurs travel through the bloodstream, making a beeline for the brain. Their target? The master clock. They get in, they cause chaos, and they completely disrupt the body's natural rhythms for sleep, hormones, and mood. It's not just a side effect, it's a direct biological hijack. Now, this might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it is very, very real. It's all part of a field called psychoneuroimmunology. It's a mouthful, I know, but just break it down. Psycho for our mind, neuro for our nervous system, and immunology for our immune system. It's the science of how these three incredibly complex systems are all talking to each other all the time. This research is proving without a shadow of a doubt just how deeply connected they all are. So, what does this all mean for the actual person who's going through this? I mean, this discovery is so much bigger than just a lab finding. Knowing this is a biological process completely changes how we look at the patient's experience. It shifts the whole story away from psychological blame and towards a biological reality. For far too many patients, this is the kind of question that echoes in their head. The physical symptoms are one battle, but then there's this added burden of wondering, is this my fault? Am I not strong enough to handle this? It feeds this horrible cycle of self-blame and distress. And this is why this science is so powerful, because it gives us a clear, definitive answer to that question. And the answer is no, it is not a weakness. It's not a failure of character. It's a physical symptom of the disease, just like nausea or pain. It's a biological hijack. And just knowing that validation can be an incredible medicine all on its own. This new understanding, it just blows the doors wide open for new ways to heal. First and foremost, like we said, it lifts that heavy burden of self-blame. But on a practical level, it points us toward new treatments called chronotherapies, therapies based on timing. Things like using precisely timed light therapy to help reset that hijacked master clock in the brain. Now, this doesn't replace something like cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's a powerful new tool that can work alongside it, creating a much more complete and compassionate way to care for people. But of course, it's never quite that simple. Like with any huge leap forward in science, this new light also creates some new shadows. With this incredible new knowledge comes a new set of responsibilities, and even some new problems that we have to be really careful about. And we have to navigate a really important balancing act here. On one hand, there's the very real risk of overprescription. If we start seeing anxiety as purely a biological symptom, do we just start reaching for a pill instead of providing the crucial counseling and support someone needs? But on the other hand, what about patient agency? If we reduce every single feeling to just a cellular mechanism, are we in danger of devaluing a person's very real, very human search for meaning in one of life's most difficult experiences? And really, that's what it all comes down to. This new science gives us this amazing, detailed map of the body's inner workings, but as we get better and better at mapping every single biological pathway, we have to keep asking ourselves this crucial question: how do we also honor the human spirit? How do we make room for the personal journey, the subjective experience, the search for meaning that makes us who we are? That's the challenge, but it's also the promise of this incredible new frontier.